Hi, everybody. Welcome to the City Girls Pod. This is the show where we are talking about Sex in the City, and we are talking about back episodes. We're in season 2, episodes 13, 14, and 15 of Sex in the City. A lot of fun stuff we're going to talk about today. And I'm from critic Rachel Wagner, and Jax is here.
Hi.
Yes.
Yeah, we're getting into it today.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we always say that this is a mature podcast for a mature show. So if it's not for you, don't listen to it. It won't be for you. You, especially this one. This one is a racy set of episodes.
This is not a When Calls the Heart recap. This is not.
Yes, but how are you doing, Jax?
I'm good. I was relating to Carrie pretty hard in some of these because I know, like, when you go through a tough time and you're eating all the wrong things and then also like sleeping late and doing all this stuff that is, it's bad for you, but like you can't stop yourself. Like, have you ever been like that where you're just like, I'm in a rut?
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely, for sure. Or it's just like, I don't know, where you just feel kind of low energy. I felt that this week. I really have. So I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't know what it is in the universe this week, but something feels wonky.
I think maybe because we're at that point in kind of cold weather where it's like starts to feel kind of oppressive.
Yeah.
It's like we're ready for it to be warm. We're ready for summer mentally, emotionally. And it's just like, it's gray outside.
That's a really good point. I'm like refusing now at this point to wear proper jackets because I want to wear like my spring jacket. And I was walking the last 2 days before this one. I was doing a lot of walking and the wind was like whipping. And I was like, I should have just worn appropriate attire, but I don't want to face it.
Well, speaking of appropriate attire, we wanted to.
You did.
It's good lead in, right?
Right?
So we have our logo, which was designed by Jessica Miller, and she's brilliant and amazing. We have it at the merch store now. So you can get City Girls Pod clothing. You can get like hoodies and t-shirts, and you can get mugs and totes and all kinds of fun stuff.
And I'm pretty sure that pretty soon it will be the only thing that you will see me wearing on this podcast if you tune in on YouTube. If not, you'll just...
Yeah, I think so. So if you want to have great fashion sense like Carrie and Charlotte, then you gotta get some City Girls Pod merch.
You gotta do it. So. I got the mug coming and I have the shirt coming, so I'm ready.
I also want to give a shout out. I found 2 blogs this week that gave me great joy. One is called it's the Sex in the City Revisited a blog, and it's basically doing kind of what we're doing, but they're a little ahead of us. They're on season 3, episode 18. But they have really fun blog. They cover Carrie's column in every episode, in every post, and then they also cover the fashion in every post, and also if there's a pun, they have the pun of the episode. Anyway, really good, helpful. Cool. Yeah. And I thought they did a very good job. So that's one to check out. But the other one is really funny. It's carriebradshaw.com.
A lot of people agree with that sentiment.
They've finished. They've done every episode and just like that. And in every blog post, they have all the reasons of why Carrie is the worst in each of the episodes. And I don't know, it's really funny. They do a great job. So check that one out.
I think this is going to bring me a lot of joy this weekend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm going to reach out to both of them. Hopefully they might be interested in coming on, because that would be really fun.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so let's dive in. Let's talk about we're nearing the end of season 2. Got one more episode of our show for that. But we have season 2, episode 13. It's called Games People Play. And so the big kind of a storyline of this is that Carrie goes to shrink for the first time, and she's very, very suspect of shrinks. And she ends up meeting John Bon Jovi at the shrink. It's Seth is his name on the show. I thought that for some reason, I thought that he had a bigger arc than this.
Rachel, I didn't realize. I was like, wait, is that Bon Jovi? I was like, no, it can't be. And then Googled it and I was like, oh, how did I not remember that before? So I didn't remember that it was Bon Jovi before. I remembered this storyline, but I guess at the time I didn't put it together.
Yeah. So she goes to Gwyneth Paltrow's Shrink, which I thought was kind of funny, especially when you think of Gwyneth Paltrow's whole career post this, with the group and everything like that, that she would be seen as somebody like kind of the ultimate of like stable before all of that. I don't know. It's interesting to me.
I actually thought the same thing, that joke, as it's aged, has gotten funnier because what we knew of Gwyneth Paltrow when this aired, sure, it's a funny joke and it makes sense, but now all the things we know, like you said, I just thought it landed even better now.
Yeah, agreed. It's interesting because my experience with therapy is not a huge experience, but when I've gone to therapy twice in my life, and both times it was actually pretty brief. Like the whole idea of the laying on the couch spilling out your problems to the therapist, that was definitely not my experience of modern therapy. It was way more like, let's create a plan, we want you kind of in and out of here as quickly as that we can. The one time I went, I think maybe 3 times, and then the second time it was like 2 times. It wasn't something, I don't know, like we see in that they're talking about on the show.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that Carrie was so opposed to it, because I think, again, now like they'd all be in therapy and it would just be something, because now we talk about how mental health is so important. I, like you, though my experience with therapy is fairly limited. I went when I was a kid, when my parents got divorced, because I think they thought it was a good idea. And I went with my siblings, so it wasn't one-on-one.
Yeah.
And then I went when I was getting out of my relationship that I was in for a long time. And I did BetterHelp once or twice during if they want to sponsor the podcast.
They have sponsored us before.
Oh, I thought I remember hearing that.
I mean, if you want to sponsor us again, please.
Probably used your code before, actually.
Yeah.
But it was fine. But I think I like doing it in person better, and I just haven't like put myself out there again. Would you go back, or you don't feel the need for it right now?
I don't feel the need for it right now, but I'm not opposed to going back if I felt like there was something I needed to kind of work through. But yeah, it was more just like, okay, what's the plan next? Because the reason why I went to therapy was because it was both times that I've had panic attacks in my life. I've had 2 panic attacks, and both times it kind of helped me to create a plan and to work through what would happen, why it happened, what's going on. And so that's why I haven't had it happen very often, is because I have a plan and know what to do kind of when it's happening. So that was my experience. But you got to love Stanford here with his 3 shrinks. That was so funny.
And so on brand.
Yeah.
Come on.
He's like, how can you not have a shrink?
I have a question for you, Rachel. What did you think about her friends cutting her off about talking about Big? And have you ever had to do that with a friend, or has a friend ever done that with you?
It's hard because I feel like I just don't see my adult friends enough regularly to get tired of anything that they are talking about. I wish that I had this kind of core group of friends that I saw all the time and they were like, they were always there for me. And I, gosh, it's been so long since I had anything like that. I do feel like that's kind of a fallacy of the show, that's something that happens more in your 20s versus, and they pretend like it happens in your 30s. But by the time most people reach their 30s, most people are with a partner or married, have kids. It's just so much harder to get together, do this kind of thing. And so that's, I can't really say I've experienced it that much. I'd have to go way back to like high school, maybe college. But I mean, I can understand why that would get very annoying for sure.
She's caught in this loop of not being able to talk about literally anything else. So it seems pretty necessary for them to cut her off. But I think it's interesting what you're saying about it's sort of a fallacy of the show, because I think that's definitely true. I agree with you there. And I don't even think yes, I agree. Like it's definitely, people have families, they have kids, they have partners, whatever, but also just like a lot of us in our 30s were more established in our like careers or our pursuits. So when you're all like, you would never, 4 friends that can just hang out all the time, all in different industries, that even I think is just bonkers.
Like one of my good friends, I saw her in February. I'm hoping to be able to get together in May. I mean, and that's lucky. That's pretty good twice. I mean, the way that they show it here, where they're constantly not just one friend, but the whole group every day. I mean, and it would be easier in New York City too, where people are closer together, and there's just, I don't know, more of a culture of that kind of thing. I think that's part of the reason. Also, I just haven't really experienced this kind of a thing, so there's I haven't had the chance to kind of talk it, I guess. I mean, I probably would maybe more annoy my family, I think, than friends. I could picture my sisters being like, okay, come on, let's not talk about this anymore.
That's enough, you're cut off.
Yeah, I could picture maybe one of them or my mom, maybe. But they would probably be pretty patient with me.
Like, we need an intervention.
Because at this point, if I were to go through a relationship and a breakup, I mean, I feel like it would be even more devastating at this point, because it's like I've been waiting for so long.
Yeah.
That if it weren't to work out, that would be rough.
That's what I was, he actually just got engaged, but one of my best guy friends, he, late 30s, and he hadn't dated anyone. And when he got together with his now fiance, we were all excited for him, but also worried that if it didn't work out, it would be, a lot more devastating. And they got engaged right quick. So
yeah, I think that would be the case with me too.
Well, I'm just letting you know, hey, what happened and it did. So
yeah, I think I would just be ready to go. What are you waiting for? I don't care.
His fiance is older than him. She's in her mid 40s. So she was like, let's do this.
Yeah, that's how I would be too, for sure. But yeah, I mean, it was pretty funny beginning, because she's just talking, and they were pretty patient with her for a while. And you could see, especially Samantha, just like, But her fashion in this episode was so bad. I hated these tanks that she was wearing, this like brown leather, like halter top kind of tank that she was wearing. Oh,
yeah, I didn't love the fashion either. And I was wondering if part of that was intentional, because she's such a mess right now that like maybe her fashion is reflecting that, but I'm not sure if that's the case.
Yeah. And then when she's with Seth Bon Jovi, she's in this like yellow Daisy Duke shorts with this blue. It was ugly.
So that Twister scene made me ridiculously uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's like, this is just like, you know, when you get like red or you get secondhand embarrassment for like, even when you're watching, I was watching it alone, but like I was getting embarrassed for her. I don't know why, but it just felt really cheesy and weird.
I'm not even sure how you play Twister with just two people, because how do you get just flip the thing when you're all twisted around? It's like, I don't know how this works.
I don't think they did either. They were just, that was their foreplay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I did think that her shrink, the whoever that actress was, did a very good job playing a shrink. That felt very, especially when she was like, I don't like the term normal. That felt very shrinky to me.
I meant to look her up because I swear she's been on an episode before. I recognized her from something, but I don't know what.
Yeah, let me see. Anne Lang is her name. She doesn't have a picture on IMDb.
What? She felt so familiar to me.
Oh, she was on an episode. She was on the baby shower episode.
Yes. Okay. I knew that we had, okay. But isn't it funny that they used her again, not as the same character? Because you're not supposed to, I think they like, now they have rules against that and stuff, but I feel like they back in the day.
She probably is a different character, but she, in the baby shower, her character was named Gretchen. Was that their friend, Gretchen?
Oh.
Let's see. I forget. No, it was Lainey was their friend. So it was the name. Anyway, her name was Gretchen. So she could, and now she's Dr. G. So it could technically maybe be the same person.
Yeah.
Match there. Yeah.
If anyone wants to like fact check us on this and you know, let us know.
Yeah. Well, so Charlotte claims that she thinks that going to shrink is self-indulgent. She doesn't agree with it. She says exercise solves the problem. That's why we're all good tennis players.
Yeah.
I think that we should be open to anything that will help you. Like, I don't think that necessarily one person's mental health plan is the right for another person. I think we should just be open to whatever works.
I completely agree. And I think that there's a lot of judgment around it in every camp. Like some people are like, well, you have to be in therapy. And it's like, well, sometimes therapy doesn't work as well for people and they prefer something else. But yeah, I think it's a little judgmental of Charlotte because it's like, well, maybe just because you don't believe in it for you doesn't mean it won't work for someone else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think it's also true about finding the right therapist for you. Like maybe I needed one when I went to one that was a little more practical. There's a little more, we're going to plan it out. And what really helped me is this book called Feeling Good by David Burns. When I went to shrink, she said it was the gold standard. It's a great book. It's about cognitive therapy and really helps you to break down the delusions that you're telling yourself, the distortions, that's what distorted thinking. So like, for instance, if you were to say you were to burn the meal, right? And your immediate reaction is, I'm the worst cook in the whole world. That's a distorted thought. You don't know everybody in the whole world. You're not the worst in the whole world. You just did one thing wrong. But there's so many things like that we kind of blow up, and that leads to us feeling bad about ourselves. And he's so great in this book about helping you to break down those kind of distorted thoughts. And I love it. It's such a great book. It really helped me a lot. And but you have to find that thing that works for you.
Yeah, that sounds very helpful because I think we all have a tendency, or I'll just speak for myself, that I get something in my head and it's like, I remember this is not even anything like emotional, but I remember having difficulty in math class when I was in 8th grade. I was really good at math before that. Difficulty in math class in 8th grade. And that's when the narrative became, I'm not good at math. And guess what? I wasn't good at math anymore because I bailed. And you tell yourself these stories about yourself, but like you said, it's one thing that you did wrong, but we all kind of, it's hard not to. I'm feeling good. It's called.
What's that?
You said it's called Feeling Good.
Feeling Good by David Burns. They just released a new edition last year. Oh, nice. So it's a great book. It's really, really good. But yeah, I liked that the shrink says that I don't like the term normal, and Carrie says, of course you don't, or you wouldn't have any patience. Which is true.
Touche.
And then they also talk about playing games. So Samantha says that basically if that the men are simple is her sort of argument, that they don't really need games, and that basically if you were to give BJ's to men, we could run the world. We could run the world. That's what she says. So she says men are simple. Charlotte says that games are empowering, and that they're actually a good thing. And then we have Miranda playing games with this guy across the building from her.
Oh, this is another storyline where it is just so embarrassing for her. This is one of the funniest storylines in the whole series for me. And watching it of her just thinking she's having this sexy little playful moment. And then at the grocery store when she's like, I thought I'd be adult and introduce myself. Oh my gosh. And then that just really took the wind out of her sails. She'd been showing him some cheeky nipple action and it was doing nothing for him.
Yeah. He was there with his partner. So we also find out that I guess Seth's hang up why he's going to therapy is that he loses interest in women after sleeping with them. And then that's when Carrie realizes that she just has lousy taste in men.
I thought that played really well. The writing in that, the acting was great. When it's like he reveals why he is after they've just slept together, and then hers, I picked the wrong men. It's like, you do, Carrie, you do. And she does point out, Dr. G says like, yeah, the one thing they have in common is you. And sometimes we all take a hard look at ourselves. I've had this less with romantic relationships, but more with friendships. If I'm feeling frustrated by certain things that like people in my life are doing or friends, but it's like the same sort of pattern, I'm like, well, I'm the common denominator. So maybe I'm not setting good boundaries, or I have to, you gotta look to yourself.
It's really a healthy thing to do, actually, because you're the only one that you can control.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
it doesn't really help to focus on anybody else but yourself, because that's it. Everyone else is out of your control.
Yeah.
So we also have Samantha, that she started dating this sports guy that's super great in the sack, but only if his teams win. And
they're not having a good season.
No. And the Knicks are notoriously terrible basketball team. So it's rough.
She's going to be in a sexual drought for a while if she stays with him.
Yeah. They had some good years in the 90s, I feel like, but for the most part, they're just the worst basketball team. Really bad.
Yeah, and I like how she thought she was going to start getting some when basketball season was over, and he was like, on to baseball.
Yeah. I'm going to start watching the Mets, and that was it. She's like, no way.
Not happening.
Yeah. And then we get the Twister game, like you said, between Carrie and Seth. And yeah, that was energetic.
It certainly was. It certainly, it's just, I'm not sure why Twister was there, but.
Yeah, evidently Carrie's big into games, board games.
Go figure.
Yeah, go figure. So what do you think about this episode 1 to 10?
I give this an 8.5. I thought it was really funny. And I think that it did a good job of really touching on how dark it can get after you have a breakup, and did it in a way that was still humorous. What about you?
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. It was pretty funny, and one I think almost anybody can relate to. So it was a good one, except for the fashion was so bad. We'd like to take a second from this episode of the podcast to celebrate our sponsor of this episode, and that is the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast?
Do you want an inside scoop into what happens on the podcast?
Do you want early access to episodes and loads of cool perks?
Now is the time to become a patron of Hallmarkies podcast.
By becoming a patron, you get to access our patron Facebook group.
You can request episodes or even be a guest on the podcast.
And most importantly, any patron can join our monthly movie watch-alongs with stars like Paul Campbell, Natalie Hall, and more.
It's as low as $2 a month to join in and become a special part of the Hallmarkies family.
Please consider, and we will love you forever.
Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
So in the next episode, Carrie runs into Skipper, and he's basically had it. He's tired of being the nice guy, the guy who's friend zoned. And I kind of feel like he sort of deserves it in the way that he treats people. Remember when when the way he just dumped that woman
when he was inside her? Yeah.
I mean, he's pretty much a jerk.
I think Skipper goes all in on women in a way that is uncomfortable. And I'm not saying he needs to like play games like we're talking about the other episode. I don't think he needs to do that, but I just think he doesn't even really know them enough to go all in. Like so you're like, what's up with this dude?
Yeah, I feel like he wants to get the credit for being the nice guy, but then he actually isn't the nice guy. He's kind of a jerk.
Yeah.
So, but he's frustrated, and Miranda is dating this angry MSNBC guy. Like, it's like she said, I don't know who else is on MSNBC. I don't watch the news much anymore, but she's basically dating like Rachel Maddow, but in male form. I don't know.
Yeah. I know. I don't watch. I've cut down on my news consumption. Yeah, he is very, very bossy, and she likes when he's bossy in the bedroom, but not in real life. Right. And he's pretty bullheaded in real life. It's like he's so angry.
Yeah, and I thought it was funny that he says, "Come on, Gene Shalit, get in the cab," because Gene Shalit, he was the film critic for the Today Show for many, many, many years, and he was famous for having this super long mustache, Gene Shalit, and he was like super. He was super perky. Like that was his reputation, which was kind of funny that they would pick that critic of all critics to like it wasn't like it was Roger Ebert or one of the other critics that could be really, angry or whatever. Gene Shalit, no. But anyway, it's funny. She tries to talk to him even about the movie, and he's just a jerk. He can't. And you do have to be careful. I remember one time when I was in college, my friends and I, we all went to see La Chocolat, and I didn't care for the film, and my friends all enjoyed it. And I was kind of talking about, I didn't really like the way that they depicted religion in the film. I didn't like this, blah, 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 blah. Because that was the way I was raised to talk about film in that kind of way. And I just remember one of my friends was like, "Rachel, we just wanted to enjoy the movie," So from their perspective, that was hurting the film. But from my perspective, that was helping the film, because that's just the way I was raised. And so I had to kind of learn when to opine and when to keep my mouth shut.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because it always enhances my enjoyment and my experience talking about the play, the film, the TV show, even if I liked it and someone didn't like it. So I never really understand. I mean, I understand, but I have a hard time getting down with people who are like, I just want to enjoy it. I'm like, okay, well, all right.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's kind of the difference of that, you know, sometimes you want, like, even if you think about a podcast, like your guys' old podcast, like that podcast was a joyful podcast. It was just it was just an excuse to be happy and enjoy the shows, which is great. And that's something that fulfills a need, a purpose, right? Whereas when you listen to something that maybe I do or some other people do, that's more of like a critical analysis kind of a perspective. Like I think both things can be helpful and have a perspective and fill a need. But I just know for me that that's just how I was raised, is you question things, you talk about it, and so I get more enjoyment out of it from that experience. And there's so many times when I wouldn't really have liked a film that much, and then I'll do a podcast on it, and after the conversation I'm like, wow, I kind of maybe like it a little bit because we had such a great conversation.
Did I actually maybe like this one?
Yeah. But I had to say, the fashion in this episode was also terrible. What on earth is Carrie wearing? That whole scene where they're on the lawn and she's wearing like a German outfit, lederhosen. Like, what? It looked like she was going to go work at Beer Garden or something. I
Carrie lost the plot these days.
It was so bad.
It's like she's always dressing up in some like wacky outfit, almost for like the shock effect of it.
Yeah, it was bizarre.
I was really laughing at her line about being careful of the park poo, though, because you do have to be careful when you go in the park. Like I've sat in things before. So it was wise advice.
So Carrie has this basically like a backup guy that's her friend that she calls when she is feeling horny and is in a relationship. She has her guy. John McFadden is his name. And so they have such a good time together. She thinks that surely they could have a relationship together. But when she tries to go on actual dates with him, it's a mess. It does not work.
Yeah, and this guy is hot. He's on Law and Order SVU, and he's great. Yeah, I just think he's super handsome. Yeah, they really had nothing to talk about outside the bedroom. And Dean Winters. When they're in the bedroom, it was talking. What's that?
Dean Winters is his name.
Winters. I think he's on Law and Order, unless I'm making that up. Can you see?
Well, I see on his IMDb he has, he is on Law and Order SVU.
SVU. Okay, because I was like, I don't think I'm making that up because I think he's really cute. But he
was on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, I guess, too. Yeah.
That show's really funny.
That's one show I have not caught up. But yeah, you're right. He was on Law and Order SVU. Seen anything else? He was on John Wick, evidently. John Wick.
I always
he's very handsome. He's so confident, and that is an incredibly attractive quality.
Yeah, and when Carrie invites him over for actual dinner and he shows up thinking that they're just going to get right to it, and then it is so awkward when they're like ordering the food. Like the tension is palpable, and it's not sexual tension, it's just awkwardness.
Yeah. I mean, I have to kind of wonder, does anybody really have this in real life? I find it hard to believe that. It seems like something more in the show than in real life.
I can't imagine. Okay, so the people that I know that have what they refer to as F buddies, which or have had in the past, they're usually like kind of friends with them. Like they like them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like they're not, it's not going to be a relationship, and everyone knows that. But you kind of like to pal around with them. At least that's like my friends and who have like talked openly about it. Or sometimes what sucks is one person really likes the other and the other one does.
Yeah.
It gets complicated.
I could picture that happening
Yeah.
for sure. So also Samantha she hears her neighbors getting it on through the wall, and she goes over and she meets them, and they're like this cute Polish couple. And I kind of was surprised that she was so turned off by that. I think it's more Samantha's nature that she'd be like, right? I think that would have been I think that would have been a funnier way to go, and it would have been more true to her character.
I definitely agree. I think either it would be a turn on for her, or she's a New Yorker and she just doesn't care. Like you hear, I mean, I don't like, I have work going on like next door to my apartment. There's been, they've been renovating for like 7 months. Sirens all the time, dogs barking, all these things. I'm like, well, it's what happened when you live in New York. And that's why I'm surprised that she's that put off by it.
Yeah, agreed. So Charlotte, she decides to ask this yoga guy out on a date. And she supposedly has never asked a guy out ever. That seems crazy to me. When she's in her 30s, you've never like asked a guy out in your whole life. I don't
feel
know.
like Charlotte is just so by the book in her, like some of her very weird regimented, this is what a woman acts like, and this is what I want to do, and this is what I have to be. But that's pretty, I mean, that would be shocking. I've asked out a lot of people.
Me too. I probably wouldn't, what limited dating experience I have, I wouldn't have almost any of it if I hadn't initiated it in some way.
I think more women initiate things than we realize, or than that people realize, because otherwise it's hard to get things going.
But then she starts dating these 2 guys at once, and it backfires on her, of course. She tells the one guy that she's sick, and he brings her over soup, and she's making out with the other guy.
So I one time did double book dates, but they were drinks dates, and they were both first dates. And it was interesting because it sort of taught me a lesson. It was when I was dating a lot, and I usually always had a second date with people because even if it wasn't romantic, like we usually end up being like kind of friends or something. Neither one of these, I don't think first of all, they just didn't like me, but neither one of them wanted to go out for a second date. And I really think it was because I was not really focused, because I was like, oh, I have to get to the next thing. And then going to the next thing, I kind of felt bad about having to leave the other thing. So yeah, I don't think it's wise to double book. I wasn't making out with either of them though, or lying about having a cold. I just said I had to go.
Yeah. And then she blames it on her friend. She's like, I'm never taking any advice from my friends ever again. And I'm like, you're the one who made the bad choices.
Yeah, Charlotte, they didn't tell you that you need to double book.
Right.
And that you need to feign some sort of illness.
Right. So the guy that Miranda's dating, his name's Kevin, and she gets basically told by him that oh, you live in Neverland and you're just like this cockeyed optimist person. And she looks at him and she says, well, I'm gonna go to Neverland then. And she's thinking, how did I get turned into this person? She's like this super positive person in the relationship.
It's like, this is not on brand for her, but like comparatively, yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. And so then she runs into Skipper, and Skipper is angry at her. And of course, with him being angry, that turns her on. And so it's bad.
Miranda and Skipper, why was that ever a pairing that ever would work at all?
No, because at least Steve was more confident.
Oh yeah.
So it was a better match than with Skipper. But I just don't like Skipper. I think he's a faker.
Yeah.
I don't like him.
No, I think that's true. And I think a lot of times, we might have even said this before, because I know it's something I very firmly believe. Guys who say they're nice guys usually aren't nice guys.
Yeah, exactly.
They need to tell you. And it's like, well, no, you can just show me that you're a nice person.
Yeah. So then McFadden and Carrie go to a movie. They try to talk about it, and it just does not work. I mean, I would think you could have a conversation about a movie with almost anybody, but I don't know. It's just not working. And so they basically call things off. And she talks about she's feeling restless and kind of frustrated. So this one it's an interesting episode. It was pretty fun. What do you think about this one?
I give this one slightly lower than the other one. I think I'd give it an 8, but I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. So our final episode today to talk about is called Shortcomings. And basically the big thrust of this episode is talking about families. We have Valerie Harper playing the mother of Carrie's new boyfriend. And we have Miranda dating a guy with kids. And so it's an interesting episode. Carrie's dating this guy named Vaughn, played by Justin Theroux. And Justin Theroux, he struggles in this, his character Vaughn, he struggles to make it all the way through.
He does.
Yeah, you can't quite finish.
Yeah.
With Carrie, and that's a problem. It's a problem. I don't know how you get around something like that.
Yeah. I mean, Justin Theroux, again, this is like another hottie that we have in this episode. Carrie's getting some good looking guys, but there's problems with all of them.
I love Justin Theroux. He's so dreamy.
Oh, 100%. Like, no, but was this like the beginning of his? I don't like. I haven't like followed his career. Was this one of the first things?
Well, I told you before about his movie, the movie Violet he was in last year that I really enjoyed. Yes. It's just his voice. He's the voice inside the head of Olivia Wilde, so cool. Telling her to be more bold and everything. And it's such a fun movie. You should check it out. He was on the show The Leftovers, which I know had a pretty big fan base. Yeah. I never saw it. He was on Parks and Recreation a couple of episodes. He was on 6 Feet Under.
That's what I really loved him in. He was great in 6 Feet Under.
And he was previously on an episode of Sex and the City. He was on the episode The Monogamous, where Big is dating other women and Carrie is struggling, and that's when Samantha has the date with the realtors. Yes. Remember that episode?
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
Characters. This one, he's Vaughn, and that one, his name was Jared.
It's amazing that they're using a lot of the same actors, and like, it's not like it's seasons apart. Like it's
the last season.
It's not like numerous. Yeah.
But how great is Valerie Harper? I love her so much.
She is wonderful. And I completely understand why Carrie continues to date Justin Theroux's character, because she wants to be a part of that family.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that would be a challenging thing, because I guess I just know that when my siblings have dated people and then it's not worked out, just as a family member, I really, I really liked that person. I liked having them part of our family. And so I think that is something there that, that it's more than just dating that person and losing that person. It can be an entire family.
Yeah. My long-term boyfriend, I was really close with his little sisters, but they're much, much younger than him. And then we broke up. I would still like email them occasionally or like follow them on social media. And like, he and I are still friendly, but like, I know that like, I've seen him since, and I'll probably see him again, but I'll probably never see his family again.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's really sad.
Mm-hmm. And so it's almost harder for her to break up with the mother than for the son. She says 77% of marriages are sexless. That's depressing.
She's like, can I just make this work?
We also have that. So Miranda says that family hour at the gym is the worst. And I don't know if you agree that all of a sudden around that on the weekends, on Sunday in particular, that New York turns into like kids everywhere. That's what they were saying. I thought that was kind of funny, because obviously they're in school during other times. But I guess I don't, if there's like a family hour, then why doesn't she just go other times?
Yeah.
Why doesn't she just go at like 6 a.m? No kids will be there then.
No, and I feel like Miranda's an early riser. She's used to being an early riser for her job. So just like get it in and get it done and go about your business.
Mm-hmm. And so there's this guy who has a son who is very difficult child. And Miranda ends up shutting the door on the kid, and it hurts him in some way. He's going to have stitches. I'm like, what? But that guy treats her like she's the villain in the story.
Yeah, I don't exactly know how that injury happened. I was a little bit, I understand why she reacted like that, because if someone's like coming in the bathroom on you, it's almost like just instinctual. You don't think about it. It's like, oh, stop, kind of slam the door. But then I also did kind of empathize with the dad, because if I saw, I don't have any kids, but even like kids that I've nannied for, if I saw them like really injured like that, I'd be pretty freaked out.
Yeah, I guess I can understand that. It felt like a lot happening within a very short period of time. Like, I would think you'd at least kind of talk it out, or I don't know, you wouldn't just yell at the person you've just been with.
Yeah. And I mean, he outright dismissed her. Like, that's the last time they ever spoke. So it wasn't like, oh, maybe we shouldn't do sleepovers anymore. Maybe you should just hang out with me one-on-one, and then we'll bring him into the equation a little later.
Right.
No, it was just, that was it. That was done.
Yeah. So we also find out that Samantha is with the General Patton of sex.
There is.
But that we find out that Samantha is the General Patton of sex.
Oh yeah, I heard it the way you meant it the first time.
Yeah. And I thought this whole thing with Charlotte's brother was interesting, because on one hand, I think that he should have kind of been off Samantha's list of available partners, because He's just barely going through a divorce, just started. He's obviously in this emotionally vulnerable place. He's the brother of her friend. I don't know. I am not saying that Charlotte's reaction was the best, but I also feel like, Samantha, come on.
I think Charlotte has such like a sense of like propriety and all these rules that I think sometimes you're all the good qualities of Charlotte, by the way, and none of the bad ones. I just wanted to say that before I like railed on Charlotte. But I was on the fence because her brother seemed like he really wanted it and needed it and knew it wasn't going to be happily ever after. And I don't think Sam was leading him to believe that it was, but then also it is kind of weird and the brother's staying with Charlotte. So
yeah,
there were a lot of layers to this that the whole situation seemed messy.
Yeah. And so then Charlotte apologizes to Samantha with a gift basket, which is a good way to apologize. I'd forgive somebody if they brought me a gift basket. I love gift baskets.
I'll take a cake, a gift basket. What do you want? Balloons, whatever, something.
Muffins. Evidently,
muffins.
Charlotte is good at making muffins.
Yeah,
I also am good at making muffins.
You're not judgmental like Charlotte.
No, but I don't know. I feel like I would be kind of annoyed if the person, I feel like I would be kind of annoyed if one of my friends, I woke up and they were there with my brother who's in this emotionally vulnerable place. They stayed at my house without telling me. I don't know. I feel like Samantha was a little bit in the wrong here.
Okay. Now that I'm reflecting more, I think my problem with Charlotte was not that she was upset about it, but the fact that she called Sam the W word.
Yeah.
She did, right?
Yeah.
Am I making that? Okay.
No.
So I think she attacked almost her entire character and her like sex life. Instead of just saying, hey, he's my brother. That was really disrespectful and kind of weird. Why did you do that? And I know she was upset, but I still think she didn't have to lash out, you know?
Yeah. I can see that. And her brother does say it's the first time he'd been late in 2 years and that it was being with Samantha was a good thing. So, you know, in the end, it's his decision. He's the grown up. So, but I just think since it was in her house and I don't know, just to wake up, I think I would be pretty upset if something like that happened.
I think it's strange that they didn't go to Samantha's apartment.
Right.
Or even a hotel. Like that is icky. Like, and then I'm really bringing it down. It's like, no, that's your friend. It's your brother. I don't want to think about my brother's, I can't even say it, my brother's sex life. Like, even that feels weird to say. Right. So I think they put Charlotte in a really uncomfortable position. Whereas if they maybe would have gone somewhere else, it would have been a non-issue.
Yeah. So then we end the episode with Carrie having to break up with Bon's mother. Because she was actually willing to work through this and talk about it, but he wasn't willing to do that. She tries to talk to him about it and he's not up for it. So what are you going to do?
Yeah, I think that's also, I know it's a very sensitive subject for people, especially men. But it also shows that maybe he lacks the willingness to talk about other problems that might come up. So it's kind of a red flag.
I also thought her fashion was terrible in this episode too. She has this tie-dye tank on with this flower skirt. It was ugly.
I'm really hoping Carrie rounds it out for us at the end of season that we're coming into now.
Yeah, but the worst of all was this leather one in that first episode. We talked about this brown leather tank. It was so ugly. I hated it so much.
I don't know what she's doing. I do say, now that I'm thinking, that the dress that she wore in her shrink's office was too much for the shrink's office, but I like.
Oh yeah, that was nice.
Like, I like the cut and style, but it was way too much for that. But it's like the one thing she kind of got right in all these episodes was in a totally inappropriate
Because
setting
she was trying to impress Seth, not the shrink. Yeah.
Though, it was so fancy.
Yeah. But yeah, and then the German outfit, it was bizarre. And then this weird tie-dye thing was really bad. So
Yeah.
it's not a great fashion set. So what would you give this one 1 to 10?
Rally. I'm actually gonna give this one an 8 also.
Yeah.
What about you?
I think that's good. I mean, I love Valerie Harper so much. I'm tempted to do higher just for her alone. But
She is great.
But yeah. So there we go. We did it. Let us know what you think of these 3 episodes. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section or on Twitter. Please let us know. You can follow us at City Girls Pod on Twitter. We also have our merch, so check that out. City Girls Pod merch. It's super fun. We would really, really be grateful for you checking out the merch. And Jax, where can people find you?
At Jacqueline C Tweets on Twitter and Jacqueline Collier on Instagram.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. Check that out. Also, make sure you're following the podcast, the Hallmarkies Pod and the Hallmarkies Podcast, all of our social media. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave us your ratings and reviews. That helps us a lot. And if you are watching on YouTube, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have the patron group, so please take a look at that. And thanks so much, Jax. It's always a blast. And we'll finish off season 2 next week.
We're going to finish strong with Carrie in better fashion. And
That's
hopefully
right.
we'll be wearing our merch.
Yes. Bye, everyone.
Bye.